David, this is Craig Guillotine, and this is the Mini-Me Guillotine in its broken down condition. Let me show you how, once you remove it from the box and you're wanting to explore its use, what you need to do. The first thing you'll need to do, of course, is to notice that this does break down. This can be easily put right by simply lifting up the unit to the very top. You'll notice that there are clips that engage and lock this in place in both cases. So now the device is literally ready for performance. Let me walk through a couple of things, features of this. I'm obviously on the back side of the device. I want to spend a little bit of time and talk about this area. This is the blade holder. This is the pulleys that engage the lifting of the blade holder up into the locked position. And this is the release. The release actually carries, this is the release. The release carries up through here. There's a pulley. It goes through the center and then comes down and pulls up on this little lever here, which releases. The thing you want to pay attention to over time is that although this is in a fixed position, this is in a fixed position, you should never have to realign them, but over a period of use, this may become misaligned. I'm talking about the eye hook, so you want to be sure that it's at a slight angle and that it will easily sit over the top of the clip here. You'll also notice that there is a clip here that allows this blade to rise using this pull. So there are two pulls. There's the release pull, and then there's the return pull. This is obviously on the back side on a series of pulleys and pulls down and connects. This is fairly strong. You may at some point need to replace this if it gets worn out, but it should be good for literally hundreds of performances. Notice that there are weights here that gives some authority to this falling into place. Also want to call your attention to this device here. This actually allows the blade unit to fall and lock into place on top of the top stock. And you'll see that demonstrated here in just a moment. I'm going to lift the top stock. You'll notice that it takes a little effort to lift, and that's because there are magnets at the bottom that align to magnets here inside the device. There are obviously two holes. There's a hole for the item that you wish not to cut, and of course the hole for the item where you hope to cut. They are close to the same size, but this follows the 3.5 centimeter size that you were looking for. Go around to the front here for just a second so that you can see the front, and you see that the decor now has been enhanced. Slightly different color here, and that was intentional, as with the blade, to draw your attention to these items and de-emphasize the rest of the structure with a little bit of detailing, as you can see. Really a handsome piece. Looks quite ominous. So let's walk through the actual operation of this. A couple of things have to occur in order to demonstrate that the blade, in fact, can pass through an object. This is an aluminum blade. It is not sharp. It is blunted for safety purposes. You'll notice here on either side of the blade on the back that there are a couple of locks. These are used to lock the blade when they're pushed in and to unlock the blade when they're pushed out. Very simple. Don't make any noise to do that. And when you're demonstrating the trick for the very first time and you're wanting to show that the blade can pass through an object placed in the hole below, then obviously this is in an unlocked position, rather a locked position. So you see that the blade is locked here. And what we're going to do now obviously is allow this to fall so that you can see that it will pass through. I do have the guide down. I think I showed you that inside here there's the block. And what you want to do is, before you perform, is to make sure that that's pushed up. So that way it's out of the way and will not obscure the blade. You can double check that by literally looking inside here with your finger and pulling it towards the back. That way there's now a clear passageway through which the blade can pass. So I'll place that back down, make sure that it's properly seated in place, and now going to perform the demonstration, which will put the blade through this hole and through this hole. I recommend, rather than a carrot, which has a high water content, there is weight here. Again, this is blunted, so it does not cut. So I would suggest something more along the lines of a dried breadstick or a pretzel, or something that will allow it to kind of demonstrate its power. Carrots have high water content. They can be somewhat rubbery. I don't want the blade to be stopped before this reaches its point of lock. So I don't recommend a carrot if you can avoid it. So once again, this is the demonstration. The blade is locked into place. The guard is up here. And so now with this locked, this will pass all the way through, engage the half blade, which is inside the bottom here, and that will cut the item below. So this blade doesn't actually even come in contact with the item below. There's another blade inside of here that is on elastic, which is pushed down as this comes down, and it will actually cut the item below. So you see that it makes a good noise. You notice that the lock engages here. Over time, you may have to adjust this. There's a screw here to make sure that this is in the right position, so when this falls, this does lock into place. You can see that the blade is in fact through the first hole, and then the extended blade, I'll come around front here for just a moment, is of course showing down beneath, and that will have cut the item that's here in the bottom. Okay. So now I want to reset the blade for the performance of the cutting that will not impact this hole. I want to release this. Following release this, I'm going to pull up, and with some authority, pull up. That will re-engage and lock the blade into position. Two things I have to do in order to perform the next phase. That is to unlock the blade. That can be done very surreptitiously by simply moving those out. I actually use both hands, and I kind of reposition the unit for the next phase. In the process of doing that, I push these out, so now the blade is unlocked. The second thing I must do is use my finger and push down the stop. That now pushes the stop down and will help engage the blade and prevent it from passing through here. It's these inside units here that actually engage the half blade, which is in here, which is on elastic, and pushes it down and completes the cutting down below. So I will now demonstrate this without anything in here so that you can see exactly what happens. And what happens, of course, is that this locks into place. The blade does extend down beneath, cutting the item inside the holder, and of course does not engage the hole here. So that is roughly then obviously if the item is still in here, you can unlock, you can draw that back up. I wouldn't bring this up slowly because it might ruin the illusion of that blade being one piece. Obviously, as this falls and then is released, if I were to pull it up slowly, they might see that there's that disconnect between the two. Now, it's not obvious here in this without the blade being locked, but you get the general idea. The only other thing that you may have to replace over time is is the elastic that's holding that blade unit, and that's easily done by removing the screws. These screws would have to come out as well. These two and these four, but not this one or that one. The other screw you'd have to remove is this one and that one on either side. Then you can pull that whole blade unit out. It comes apart, and I just use string elastic. Again, I don't foresee you having to do that for hundreds of performances, but just be aware that's part of the maintenance. Well, that's the basic operation. I hope that's straightforward, understandable. If you have any questions, certainly let me know. But delighted to send this to you. I hope you have years of fun with it. And thanks for your interest